So in this video, guys, I'm going to do the Mach 4 review today, okay? So I'm going to go through this really fast. And so if you need to see something again, then rewind or slow it down, okay? So in this first problem up here, we're going to factor the numerator and the denominator. So when we do that, the numerator here is going to be x plus 3 and x plus 2. Now, I'm asking myself, what are the factors of 6 that add up to be 5? That's how I got that, okay? And then in the denominator, same thing. What are the factors of 2 that add up to be 3? So that's going to be what? X plus 1 and x plus 2. Now, what do you notice? Hopefully you see that the x plus 2 is in both, right? So that's what's going to simplify. So we're going to end up with x plus 3 over x plus 1. Now, I put up here, state the excluded x values as well. So we're going to take this denominator right here, and we're going to take both of those factors, and we're going to set them equal to 0. So x plus 1 equals 0. So x cannot equal -1. And then we got x plus 3 equals 0. So x cannot equal -3. And what this is those are the values that if we put them in that denominator, that would give us 0, and we cannot divide by 0, okay? So number 2, and this is not the number 2 that was on the original, but this is the number 2 that we changed it to, okay? So this is, again, we're going to factor that 20. What are the factors of 20 that add up to be -9? So this is going to be x minus 4 and x minus 5, right? So when I multiply -4 times -5, that's positive 20. And when I add those together, I get a a -9, sorry. And then remember, if we have two perfect squares and a minus between them, then the way we're going to find out what those are is we're going to take the square root of both of these, okay? So this is going to be x and x, and this, right? So once again, we are marking out what is repeated. We got our -4 and our -4, so this is going to be x minus 5 over x plus 4. And again, if we're looking at our excluded values, we're going to do x minus 4 equals 0. So x cannot equal -4. And then we got x plus 4 equals 0. So we're going to subtract 4. So this, well, sorry, that should have been a plus 4 right there, y'all. This one should be x cannot equal -4. Okay, so remember up here, we're adding 4 to both sides on this one. And on this one, we're subtracting 4 from both sides. All right, so now with number 3, we're going to factor out, and I'm going to do this one down under here. So we're going to factor out a 4x out of the numerator. That's going to give us x minus 5. And then our denominator, again, we're going to do, what are the factors of -60 that add up to be positive 7? So this is going to be x, and that's 12 and 5, right? So plus 12 and x minus 5. So notice again here we have a repeated factor. So this is going to be 4x over x plus 12. And again, we're going to set these two equal to 0, and where our x cannot be. So x cannot be -12, and x cannot be 5, okay? So again, remember that these are all part of our excluded values, right? So if it asks us where's x, what x values are excluded, that's what these are, okay? And that's because, again, if we put them in the denominator, they will give us a 0, and we cannot divide by 0. All right, so the next set here talks about complex number operations. So hopefully you know that this is the square root of -1 times the square root of 4, which is what? 2i, right? Then this is times the square root of -1 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. So this is also 2i square root of 10, right? So now when we multiply 2i times 2i, that's 4i squared square root of 10. And what do we change the I squared to, y'all? Yes, a -1, right? So this is going to be -4 square root of 10. That's our answer, okay? So the next one says simplify. So on this one, we're going to distribute that 6i. So that's going to give us 30i minus 18i squared. Then we've got -12 and minus a -7i, okay? So we're going to keep simplifying this, okay? So this is going to be, and I'm going to combine some like terms here. So we got 30i, and then isn't this going to be plus over here, y'all? Plus 7i, right? plus 7i. And this right here, doesn't it become a negative 1, which makes that whole term positive? So then we're going to say plus 18 minus 12. So now we're just combining terms. So this is going to be 37i, right? And that's going to be, what is that, 6. So if we were to write it in standard form, guys, then it would be 6 plus 37i. Okay? All right, the solution to the problem involves complex number is negative 6 plus 42i. Which of the following expressions could be the problem? Select 2 that apply. So I'm going to work each of these. Let's see. So these are our like terms here, right? So that's 8 minus 14, so that's 6, right? And then here's our like terms here, only this is going to be plus plus when we talk about that. So 36 plus 6i is plus 42i. So that's one of them right there. Wait, was it? No. Yes, it was, because it was minus 14. Yeah, so it should be minus 6. Yep, let me do that. So equals, because this was a minus when we did it originally. Y'all see that? 8 minus 14, excuse me, is a minus 6 plus 42i. Okay, so this next one, we're going to go 42 times I minus 6i squared. Again, keeping in mind that this becomes a negative 1, so that's going to be 6 plus 42i. So that one is definitely not 1 because it's a positive 6. This one we're going to square, and this becomes a huge number, y'all. So if we square that, remember that's the same as doing negative 3 plus 2i times negative 3 times plus 2i, okay? So let me see if I can find where I did this one. So this one ends up being negative 432 minus 126i. Obviously not the correct answer, y'all, okay? Then this one down here, we're going to do the box method. Okay, when we do the box method with this one, I got negative 48 minus 9i. So that one absolutely is not the one either. Then this last one right here. Okay, so this one is minus square root of 36 is 6, right? And then plus, this is going to be 2i, right, times 21. So this is going to be minus 6 plus 42i. So there's our other answer, y'all. So those were the two that were the same. Then it says, which values for A and B make this statement true? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, if you notice, our A has to do with the real part here, and our B has to do with an imaginary part. So I'm going to do all the real parts, minus 5 equals A. So that's going to be minus 10 equals A. Now I'm going to do all my imaginary parts. Okay, I got a 2i there, I got a bi there, and I got a 3i there, right? So when I do this, I'm going to do 2i minus a minus bi equals 3i, okay? So a minus makes this a what? A big old plus, right? So we're going to subtract the 2i from both sides. So bi equals what? Just I, right? So we can divide both sides by what? The I, right? So that's just going to give us 1 over here, right? So b is equal to 1. So I'm pretty sure that's this one right here. All right, so the next section is quadratics, okay? So on quadratics, we're solving this first one. It says given, find x. So that's really what it means, is that we're solving this. So we're going to do 20x squared, and I'm going to subtract that 360. I'm going to divide both sides by 20. So that's going to give me x squared equals negative 18. Well, that's going to be, we're going to take the square root of both of those sides, right? So that's going to give me plus or minus the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 9 times the square root of 2, because 2 times 9 is 18, right? So all of that simplifies. These two right here simplify to be what? 3i, right? So it's going to be plus or minus 3i square root of 2. That's my answer, okay? The next one says, given that f of x equal to 4x squared plus 15 equals 0, find x again. So on this one, again, we're going to do 4x squared, and then I'm going to subtract that 15 from both sides. That's going to give me a negative 15. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So I got x squared is equal to negative 15. Whoa, that was ugly, y'all. Let me fix that. So this is negative 15 over 4. Now what am I doing to both sides? Yep, taking the square root. And I'm going to do this to the top and the bottom because it helps you guys see better what's going on. So this is going to be x equals, what's the square root of negative 1? That's I, right? And then that's I, square root of 15. And then what's the square root of 4? That's 2, okay? So that means my answer for this one is B, right? Okay. The next one says, which quadratic has non-real roots? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start working this with b squared minus 4ac, keeping in mind that if it's a non-real root, this has to be a negative number, right? So what we want to find is which one is a negative number. So this is A, this is B, and this is C. So this is going to be negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10. So that's going to be 36 minus 40. Well, right there it is, y'all. That's negative 4, right? So the answer was A. And if you kept on working these, I'm going to tell y'all right now that B was a real root. I'm just going to write them on here so you guys know. You could check them later. This is real. 1 real, sorry. This one's 2 real. And this one was 2 real, okay? In case you want to work them later, just for practice. The next one says, how many solutions does the quadratic represented by the equation 10x squared minus 1 equals negative 4x halves? So the first thing we have to do is move all of these terms to one side. So we're going to do 10x squared plus 4x, because we're going to add this to both sides, y'all. Move it to the other side, minus 1 equals 0. So we're going to do A, B, and C again. A, B, and C. So we're doing that negative B squared minus 4AC, okay? So we're going to do 4 squared minus 4 times 10 times negative 1, right? So this is going to be 16, and negative 4 times 10 is negative 40 times the negative 1 is going to be plus 40, right? So this is actually going to be 56. And if that's a positive number, what do we get? 2 real, 0 imaginary. Remember, if it's 1 real, then it's what? A 0. This is never an answer, right, y'all? And then 0 real is negative. Y'all remember this? So when we do this one, it's positive, right? 0 and negative. Okay, so number 12 says, what are the roots of the equation? So on this one, we're going to distribute the x times the x minus 18. So this is going to be x squared minus 18x. And then we're also going to add that 90 to both sides, okay? So we're going to move that over to plus 90, okay? So now here again, on this problem, are there any factors of 90 that add up to be negative 18? So that's the question we can ask ourselves. Now, if we're not sure about that, then what can we use? We can use the quadratic formula, right? So when we do this, if we put A here and B here and C here, then we can find our answer, right? So this is going to be negative 18 squared minus 4 times 1 times 90, right? So this is going to be equal to, that's 324 minus 360, which is equal to negative 36. So that tells me that we're going to have imaginary solutions, y'all. So we know it's not A and it's not C, right? So then we're going to go negative B, which is minus a minus 18, plus or minus the square root of negative 36 all over 2 times A, which is 2 times what? What is this here? 2 times, what was our, A, 1. There we go. 2. Okay. So this is going to be 18 plus or minus, this is going to be I, square root of 6. No, sorry, that's 6I, isn't it, y'all? Because the square root of negative 36 is 6I. So that's 6I divided by 2. So what does it reduce to be? It's going to be 9 plus or minus 3I, right? And what answer was that? Right there. That was B, y'all. Okay? All right, so we're on number 13. This says simplify. So this is binomial expansion, right? So we're going to look at our third row of our Pascal's triangle. And if you don't remember Pascal's triangle, it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, adding the row above, right? And so this is our Pascal's triangle. Okay, and we're going to need those for both of these problems. So we're going to go 1, 3, 3, 1, right? We're putting x in this first set of parentheses. And then we're putting 2 in the second set. So then we're going 3, 2, 1, 0. And remember, these exponents have to add up to be 3, right? So they're always going to add up to be whatever that is, okay? So this is going to be 1 times x to the third times 1, which is x to the third, right? This one is going to be 3 times what? X squared times 2. So this is going to be 6x squared. This next one is going to be 3 times x, and then we're going to square the 2. So that's going to be 4. So this is going to be 12x. And this last one is going to be, again, remember anything to the 0 power is 1, y'all. So 1 times 8, because 2 to the third is 8. Okay, so that's 8. So there's our 4 terms. Number 14 says find the third term of the polynomial. Third term, y'all got to read. After expanding, and this is to the 4th power. Y'all see that? So we're going to use our 4th row right here. Y'all see that? So we got 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. Okay? So it says the third term. So this is our third term, right? 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go 2x to the 5th and then negative 4y to the third. Okay, so now let's think this through. This would be 4. Look at me being a creature of habit. So we started with 4. Y'all see that? So we're going 4, 3. This would be 2, which means this is 2, because 2 plus 2 is 4, right? So I'm going to go ahead and erase that below because we won't need it. And I'm also going to erase this over here because I need some more room to work. So we've got our 6. And remember, we're going to apply the squared to both the 2 and the 5, okay? So this is going to be 2 squared, and then x to the 5 times 2, right? Ooh, that's not a very legible 5, y'all. Okay, then we've got our negative 4 squared, and our y to the 3 times 2, right? So let's keep simplifying down here. So this is going to be 6 times 4 times x to the 10th times 16 times y to the 6th. So now we're going to multiply all these coefficients. 6 times 4, that's 24. 24 times 16 is 384. So we get 384 x to the 10th, y to the 6th. Whoa, what happened there? I don't know. Got possessed, y'all. That's all I can say. Happens. There. So which term was that, y'all? Yep, it was D. Okay. Then this next one says, yeah, I can't even read that, y'all, so I'm going to erase what's above it because I can't read it. So let's erase this right here. We don't need it now, right now. Already did that. Okay, so let P of x be x to the third minus 5x squared minus 12x plus 26. What is the remainder when P of x is divided by x minus 2? Okay, so here's the key with this. You always want to ask yourself, is there a missing term? There is not, because we got an x to the third, an x to the second, an x to the first, and then an x to the 0, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and write this with our coefficients. I should put some more space, but that's okay. We'll figure that out in a minute. Let me do it first, and then we'll fix it. So we've got a 1, because there's a 1 in front of here, right? And then we got a negative 5, and then a negative 12, and a 26, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and put this down here. I guess I'll drop it below. And then we've got, remember, if it's in this form, then we have to set this equal to 0. So this is going to be a positive 2. So we're going to bring down this 1, and then 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. That's going to be negative 18 when we add those. 2 times negative 18 is negative 36. And then this is going to be a negative 10. So what was our remainder? That's what it asked us for, right? So our remainder's right here, right, y'all? So that is our answer right there, okay? The next one says which answer choice represents the coefficient in x in the resulting polynomial dividing. So this time, again, notice we've got a 4th. We're missing a 0x to the third. We're missing a 0x to the first. Y'all see that? So when we do this one, we're going to do it with writing in descending order with our missing terms. So we got a 2 and then a 0. And then the next one's a -5, and then we got another 0. And then we got an 18, okay? So don't forget, if you're missing a term, you got to put a 0 where it would be. And again, set this equal to 0, so x is equal to -3, right? So that's why that's a -3, y'all. So now again, we're going to bring down this 2. -3 times 2 is -6. 0 plus -6 is -6. -3 times -6 is 18. This is going to be a positive 13. And then -3 times 13 is -39. Then that's going to be -39 because we're adding the 0 and the -39. And then -3 times -39 is 117. Then when we combine those, we get 135. Okay, so now let's talk about what we got here. Okay, so this is going to be over what? This is our remainder, right, y'all? So this is going to be over our x plus 3. This term is going to be our constant. That's going to be our x to the first, right? This is going to be our x to the second, and that's plus. And then this is going to be our x to the third. I like to build these from right to left, okay? So which one of these is attached to the x? That one right there. Y'all see that right there? So that's our answer. It's C. Because it's asking us which answer represents the coefficient of the x, which is the term in front of the x to the first, y'all, okay? Number 17 says the polynomial p of x is equal to x to the third minus x minus 2. Q of x is equal to x squared plus 1 are multiplied, and the 2 and the result is completely simplified. Which of these are these terms is in the resulting? Choose the 2 that are correct, okay? So I'm going to actually use a box here. So I'm going to do x to the third, a minus x, and a minus 2. And then over here, I'm going to do x squared and 1, okay? So we're going to use a box for this. So let's see what we get. So this is going to be x to the 5th, isn't it, y'all? Yep, that's x to the 5th. This is going to be minus x to the 3rd minus 2x squared. This is going to be x to the 3rd. This is going to be minus x, and this is going to be minus 2. Okay, so let's look at our terms over here. So it says, which of these are terms in the resulting polynomial? Choose 2. So I'm looking at my x squared. So here's my x squared. That definitely doesn't match. Y'all see this right here? That doesn't match, does it? Okay. Then we do have an x to the 5th, though. Y'all see that right there? So we do have this. Negative 2x to the 3rd, no, because those two cancel each other out, don't they? One's positive, one's negative, so that's definitely not right. And we do have a negative x right here. Y'all see this right here? Yep, so that's another one. This one was one of them. So there's our 2. Let's double check and make sure that 2. Nope, this one's not one. Why? Because I have a negative 2 there, and it says a positive 2 there. So our 2 answers here were B and D. All right, so the next one says, what is the volume of a box that is x inches high with a width of 3 times 3x plus 2 and then a height? So volume is equal to length times width times height, right? So we can take any of these dimensions and we can multiply them by each other. So we're going to go ahead and multiply our first 2 terms together, the x and the 3x plus 2. That's going to give us 3x squared plus 2x, right? Now we're going to multiply that. We're going to use our little box. We like the box. So we're going to do that, and we're going to multiply that by this 5x over here. Minus 1. So we're going to do 5x and a minus 1. Okay, and I'm going to use my box because I like it. I guess I'm going to have to remove it in a minute, but that's okay. 3 times 5 is 15. So I'm going to put my 15 here. And that's going to be x times x squared, is that's going to be x to the 3rd, right? Then we've got 2x times 5x, so that's 10x, right? Squared. Then we've got negative 1 times 3x, so this is going to be minus 3x squared, right? And then we've got 2x times negative 1, so that's going to be minus 2x, okay? So we've got some like terms. Y'all see where they're at right here and here? So our answer is going to be 15x to the 3rd. And when we take a positive 10 and subtract 3 from it, that's going to be plus 7x squared. And then this is going to be minus 2x. So that's our answer, okay? All right, so the number 19. What is the length of a rectangular garden with the width? Okay, I'm going to have to erase that, y'all, because I can't read it. Represented by negative 8x. I'm sorry, 8x minus 3. And the area represented by the polynomial. Okay, so this is what we know. We know the area equals length times width, right? So it says, what is the width? So that means I'm going to divide this both by length, right? Because I'm trying to get width. So our width is going to be equal to the area divided by the length, right? So we have our area, right? So let me extend this down here a little bit so I have some room to work. So we have our, and again, first thing we're going to do is check and make sure we have all of our terms. So x to the third, x to the second, x to the first, and x to the 0, right? So we're going to put this, we're going to do long division. We're doing long division because this has a coefficient in front of it. So this is going to be 64x to the third plus 8x squared minus 20x plus 3, okay? We're doing long division. So we're doing 8x minus 3. So here's the question. What do I have to multiply by 8x to get 64x to the third? Isn't that 8x squared? So now we're going to multiply that 8x squared times this, which is going to give us 64x to the third. But we're also going to multiply it by the other term. So what is 8 times negative 3? That's negative 24x squared. So negative 8x times negative 3 is negative 24x squared. Now remember, what we're going to do next is we're going to change the signs of these because we're subtracting all that. So that's going to give us 32x squared, and we're going to bring down our next term, negative 20x, okay? So now what do I have to multiply by 8x to get 32x squared? Yes, 4x, okay? So we're going to multiply that again by both terms, so that gives me a 32x squared. Going to multiply this times that negative 3 as well, so that's going to be what? Negative 12x, right? Now remember, again, we are changing the signs of all this because we're subtracting it, right? So that's going to give me negative 8x, and we're going to bring down that 3, okay? So now, once again, what do we have to multiply times 8x to get negative 8x? Minus 1, right? So that's what we're going to do, negative 8x, and that's going to be what? Plus 3, right? So again, what are we doing with all of this term, y'all? We are going to subtract it. So we're going to change both the signs here. So the whole thing goes away and our remainder was 0. So now we're looking for, where is this term? Right there, y'all. Is it A, B, C, or D? So we got an 8x squared plus a 4x minus 1. Isn't that A, y'all? It is. Okay? So watch your signs of things too, because that's really important. If you notice, these are really close to one another, okay? So be really, really careful with that, okay? That's one of the keys to success here. All right, so the next thing is our graphs, okay? So our rocket launched in the air is represented by the equation negative 4x squared plus 12x plus 2, where t represents the time in seconds the rocket is in the air. How many seconds does it take before the rocket hits the ground? So this is what we're looking for, okay? So when we're doing this question, y'all, what we want to do is we want to put this in Desmos, and then we want to look at the graph, okay? So this is actually going to go up somewhere, and it's going to come down somewhere, okay? And what we want to know is, where does it intersect the x-axis over here? And when I looked at it, it was like 3.15 something, right? So if I round it up, that's my answer, okay? So what you're looking for here is the x-intercept, okay? That's what you're looking for over here, because this is a negative number, y'all, and time cannot be negative, can it? Okay, so I don't know what that number was, but whatever it was, y'all, time cannot be negative, okay? All right, number 21 says, there was a study done on oxygen consumption of snails as a function of pH, and the result was a degree 4 polynomial whose graph is shown. Which of the following statements about this function is incorrect? Notice that word, incorrect, okay? It says there's a positive leading coefficient. Well, it looks to me like the end behaviors of this are both down, so what would the leading coefficient have been? Definitely not positive, it would have been negative, so that is an incorrect answer, right? So the degree of the polynomial is even. Well, the answer to that is yes. Why? Because both ends open down, okay? If they open in the same direction, then it's an even. There are two maximum values. Yeah, there are two maximum values, one right there and one right there, right? So again, this is a true answer. There are two intervals where the function is decreasing. Well, it looks to me like it's decreasing from here to there and from here to infinity, doesn't it? So this is also true, okay? So the only one that was incorrect was A. Okay, so on this next one, it says Isaac sketched a polynomial g of x with a total of 3 real zeros and an end behavior described as when x approaches positive infinity, and then g of x approaches negative infinity. Which of the following graphs could represent Isaac's sketch? Okay, so first of all, it says 3 real zeros. Y'all see this? Okay, so we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that doesn't help us at all, right? Because all of them have 3 real zeros. Then it says described as when x approaches positive infinity. So as we're going this direction, y'all, on our graphs, okay, this is positive infinity. G of x approaches negative infinity. So that means it's going down this way, right? So, because this is negative infinity, right, y'all? So which of them are headed that way? So obviously this one is, right? This one's headed up, so that's not true. And this one's headed up, so that's not true. But this one is. So these are our two answers right here. Possible answers, A and D. Now what differentiates thesis? Okay, so let's talk about that. So with A, because our ends of the graph are going in opposite directions, we know that the degree of this polynomial is odd, don't we? And with D, because the ends of the graph are going in the same direction, we know that the degree of this polynomial is even. So if we were given that piece of information, then we would have been able to differentiate between A and D, but we weren't. So that's why it's got two answers, okay? So this next one says, which equation represents the graph with a degree of 6 in the factored form, okay? So what I want to do is go ahead and write what these are, what these over here at -5. So this is going to be x plus 5, right? And that's a slice, so it's a first degree. Then we've got our x, and this could be x plus 0, but that really is just what? X, yes? And what's happening here is a bounce off the x-axis, right? So this is going to be a second degree. And then over here, this is at 4, right? So this is going to be x minus 4. Remember, we're always changing the sign when we're writing these as factors, okay? So over here, this is a slide, and slides are going to be odd degrees, so that's going to be 3, okay? So remember, slice is a first degree, a bounce is an even degree, and a slide is an odd degree, okay? So I noticed that I'm just going to look at this because this is our first term on all of them. That it can't be A and it can't be B. Then I'm going to look at this term, right? And so the only one that has x plus 5 is that one. But I'm going to double check and make sure this one's here too, and it is right there. Y'all see it? So this one was a minus 5, so that's why that one's wrong. Okay, so the answer was C.